All right, welcome everyone. We're going to get started since we have a shorter webinar today, but welcome to Daily Data Maintenance in EBS, Why Web ADI Isn't the Way with Andrew Gooch. Before I pass it off to Andrew, I will briefly go over a few things. Everyone will receive the recording and presentation within the next 24 hours following the presentation. And if you have any questions throughout the presentation, I recommend saving them for the end, but feel free to type them in the Q&A section or the chat throughout. But without further ado, Andrew, would you like to get started?
Thanks very much, Stephanie. So, hi everyone. Welcome to today's presentation, Web ADI basically, and all that's wrapped up in that. So, I'll just start with a bit of background on me. So, I'm in the commercials team here at Morph. I've been with the company for about 15 years. Currently, I'm doing pre-sale support, basically commercial stuff. So, helping customers understand our product and helping them through implementation. I'm a technical person by background, so I've been a developer at a DBA in my past life, going back to 11i, but I have more recently been mostly on the functional side. So I've had a bit of exposure to some of the problems that you might face here with data integration, Web ADI, things like that. So without further ado, we'll carry on. This is today's agenda. And I'll just start by briefly introducing Morph so you understand who we are. And I'll go on to then briefly discuss the challenges we face with data entry, what we're trying to do when we're using Web ADI, the problems we're trying to solve. And then we'll look a little bit about Web ADI, some of the strengths and weaknesses there. And we'll stop in the middle and get a little bit of feedback from the audience about how Web ADI impacts your business. And after that, I'll start to introduce the Morph solution, give you a sense of what that's all about. And if I'm quick enough, there should be time for a Q&A session at the end. So I'm going to go as quickly as I can. Please save your questions to then, but put them in the chat box as they come up and we'll raise them at the end. Okay, but starting with Morph it's probably worthwhile understanding who we are and why you'd want to be listening to what we have to say. So Morph is a third-party software house. We offer Excel spreadsheet-based solutions for loading, analyzing, and maintaining Oracle ERP data. We've been around a while. We've got a global footprint, and we're a trusted partner supplier to a large portfolio of customers who use our products regularly on a daily basis to speed up data processing. Today's discussion will center on Oracle eBusiness Suite, and our offering in that arena is EBS Toolbox, and there's about 40 tools in that suite, spanning the whole of the ERP. But also many of you will have Oracle ERP Cloud Fusion on your future roadmap, so it is worth mentioning that we're in that space too. That offering is ERP Cloud Toolbox, which currently offers 4 products. You can see them named there, and within each of these, a number of individual tools designed to speed up your data processing. But today's focus will be EBS Toolbox. And there's a wide variety of areas within EBS supported in that. And some of this audience may be familiar with our products. Hopefully you can attest to the advantages they provide, but I am going to start from scratch today and assume no prior knowledge in the audience. So any discussion about Web ADI is primarily a talk about data entry. And whether we're using Web ADI or third-party solutions like Morph that we'll be talking about later, or custom integration, or even the Oracle front ends, the primary focus is getting data to EBS quickly and efficiently. Beyond that, we need it to be correct. We need confidence that bad data will be locked out, and also that we'll be able to recognize where those rejections occur and how to correct and reprocess in those scenarios. Now, EBS is a top-tier system. There's only one version, so it's designed to accommodate the most straightforward and the most detailed requirements for every element. And that's a bit of a challenge in the front end because the forms have to accommodate for every scenario, meaning they're not streamlined for quick, efficient data entry. Yes, you get the functionality, but the usability doesn't match up. The UX is not efficient for high volumes. And this diagram really illustrates why that is. We'll all be familiar with this problem. Users have to navigate deep into entry forms and then out again to completely populate each element. The layered nature of them hides a lot of the detail in sub-level forms out of view, making it something of a challenge to ensure that the data set is complete. And you might hear RPA, robotic process automation, being suggested as a route out of this problem, but the complexities around the user forms generally mean they're quite highly complex bots to build with a low chance of providing a real return on investment. You'd basically just be moving the workload from the user to the IT department with all the added costs associated there. What's really needed is a more straightforward way for the users to lay out their data and a one-step approach to uploading it. You'd expect users to use the forms for small jobs and then be able to switch to mass upload tools when the volume of manual keying gets out of hand. Data loader is out there. It's still used a bit, but it is error prone and it's a difficult process to set up and to operate. So most people prefer to stay clear of that. Now, when funding is high, you might be able to look into implementing a bespoke integration process for your exact requirement, but that will be expensive to build and difficult and costly to maintain. And it does create an inertia when needs change over time and those solutions need to be revisited. In the main, organizations will want to use what's already available to them. And that's why spreadsheet integration has so much traction. It's a basic scenario, really. Use your spreadsheets for your data capture, upload it from there, and respond to any errors all at once. Spreadsheets have a lot of advantages when it comes to data capture. For a start, they're widely familiar to the user community, and they lend themselves to laying out large and complex data in one place. And you get all the data replication perks like copy and paste and formulas and all that. And that's why we have Web ADI. Double check that we're still all right. Now, there's a lot of good things to say about Web ADI. So I just want to make sure that I haven't lost my audience here. Are you able to hear me, Stephanie?
Yeah, you're all good. Don't worry about
Sorry,
it.
I'm getting feedback from Skype. I thought somebody might have been trying to get hold of me. Where was I? Yeah, there's a lot of good things about Web ADI. Most of the audience will be familiar with it. That's why you'll be here. But it does have its limitations, and that'll also be part of the reason why you're here too. So let's just refresh our memories. Essentially, with Web ADI, there are two flavors. Firstly, there's the seeded Web ADI integrators or templates coming from Oracle, and there's over 300 of these available in 12.2. On the other side, custom developed templates, which means integrators you create yourselves within the Web ADI framework. So we'll start by looking at the first one. With seeded templates, you're essentially reliant on what Oracle gives you. So let's have a look at that. As I mentioned, there's about 300 templates seeded by Oracle in a number of areas. And with so many, you might think that there's a lot of support there, but the reality is that most of the templates are not very popular. They're part of fairly niche applications, price management, yard management, things like that. The most useful to the wider community will be the ones that fall within these 7 applications. And each has its own level of support, but the raw numbers don't always tell the full picture. So starting with projects, although we have 7 templates, they don't hit all our main points. 4 are for budgets, mostly the same actually, just aimed at different types of budgets. 2 there for creating transactions, and another one specific to connections with Microsoft projects. So there's nothing there to create or maintain project foundation data, tasks, any of that setup stuff. With HR, again, there's a lot of templates. I think there's 88, but a lot of them are unusable or, again, related to niche requirements or localizations. Manufacturing is a similar scenario. The templates aren't particularly useful to general usage case. All of the 52 templates here are to fix errors on the interface table, not to upload data. And if you drill in through the other applications, similar problems. And that just brings us to GL. It's only really in GL where you see a widespread use. There aren't that many templates. 3 of them are just for currency uploads, but the general entries one, it does get a lot of use. It's been there forever and is quite popular. But on the flip side, if you don't find an off-the-shelf Web ADI template for your requirement, you're probably going to either give up or start to think about a custom developed template. And that's going to take time, patience, and resources to make it work and involve all the costs associated with external experts and consultants for maintenance. Oracle has never been all that strong in the area of desktop integration. It prefers to provide development platforms rather than end user applications. But in the real world, organizations prefer to focus on core business. They don't want to have to employ IT specialists to support their users, or by building custom integrations or using those basic migration tools on their behalf. I guess if we were to summarize the challenges we face with Web ADI, we'd come up with a list like this. Now, we spoke about the first point, but even if you've found a template available that suits your needs, there are some challenges and limitations. If we look at the first two bullet points on that second list, which is really a user experience list, it's probably best highlighted with a workflow diagram. And this is the key problem area here. Web ADI generally performs the uploads via interface import programs. They need to be monitored and the results need to be reviewed. You need to see those green squares, the little happy faces come back to the spreadsheet, but often that isn't enough. The worksheet results will only reflect partial validations outbound. So to be sure the data loaded as expected, it's necessary to review the transactions in Oracle, or the Oracle import report. And when there are errors, that starts a fiddly operation to determine the reasons behind them and to work out the corrections needed before going back and putting those corrections back into the spreadsheet and starting the process off again. So from the user point of view, it's a bit of a struggle. Lots of steps, lots of switching between Oracle and the spreadsheet. Sometimes you're going to need more than one person, and you have to repeat the process each time you encounter a problem, which means a lot of rinse and repeat. And for complex areas, anything with headers and lines, attachments, flex fields, it quickly gets complicated. And then just back on this slide, on that second list, the other points are limiting too. There's no customization of the validation list, no facility for extensions to allow you to insert your own business rules into the process. Somewhat of an element of confusion when you have multiple templates for the same type of operation. And then to change anything on them, even just the position of the columns, you need to do a customization to modify the integrator. And for that, you'll need a technical person, technical resource. And the other big complaint in Web ADI is around patching and upgrades. And there are real issues in Web ADI when it comes to this area, whether you're patching Oracle or Excel. Now, Oracle ceased support for EBS earlier than 12.2. So if you're on 12.1.3 or still on 11i, you're going to be on your own if you have any problems with Web ADI. And if you need to make any changes to Excel, same thing. On those versions, Web ADI was only ever certified for Excel 2010. So if you're going to move to Office 365 or you want to change any of your business-wide Office setup, you're going to get a bit stuck. And the only advice you're going to get from Oracle is to upgrade your entire Oracle instance. Now, patching is quite a big problem, and it's potentially why you're in the audience today. We do get a lot of people coming to us at More for Apps because of this. It's best illustrated by an example, and this is a real scenario we had quite recently. And with an Oracle error like this, first thing to do is go to Oracle support. And hopefully you'll be lucky and you'll find a note. And we did find one here, sorry. It's good. It matches our instance. And then looking at the instructions, it says download the patch, apply the patch, and so on and so on. Until we read that last one, which is a killer. If you have any custom layouts, they're going to be lost. And it happens all the time with Web ADI. You invest time modifying things for your business, and then you have to apply a patch. And it might not be a patch that's at all related to Web ADI, and things start to go wrong. From the administrator's perspective, it's something of a nightmare scenario. The patch is needed, so are the Web ADI templates. So what do? Delay the patch? You will have to do it eventually. And when you do, those Web ADI templates are going to be, need to be fixed super fast. So can you even manage that? And that's even assuming you notice that note on the SR. A lot of the times we hear from customers, they've already been caught out. They've already done the patch. And the problem is that there's a pretty low likelihood that Web ADI template issues would be picked up in UAT. Unless that patch is really closely aligned with the data error of the templates which are being deployed. And that isn't always going to be the case. We need fast data entry tools, but we also need to be able to use them when we need them. And if Web ADI isn't reliable, we aren't going to be able to trust it. And in this scenario here, custom development is not really helping us. It's kind of holding us back. But, since we're talking about custom development, we might as well consider the process there. And this is a diagram from one of the Oracle support documents. And even Oracle can't avoid painting a picture that sets off alarm bells on the complexity side. It's pretty clear that developing templates is likely to be complicated, slow, and costly, and it will require a lot of IT involvement. And then there's maintenance support, which is generally likely to be dependent on 1 or 2 people within your organization, which in itself becomes a bottleneck and potentially an expensive one too. You want to change your template, you need to call that person, add a field, start using DFFs, call that person, what's their work demand like. And even when you've got it running and implemented, that issue of patching sort of lurks in the background. But listen, none of us want to do that anyway, right? So if we want to start looking at alternatives to Web ADI, where do we look? As is fairly typical of Oracle, any business suite, the provision of extensive suites of supported high-quality desktop integration tools has been left to partner ISVs, like more for apps. But before we start off in that direction, it's a good time now to stop and get your take on Web ADI. It's not a new product, quite the opposite really. So I'm guessing this audience has got a reasonable exposure to it, and it'd be really interesting to identify which aspects are causing you the most trouble. So to that end, we have a poll question here, which we'd really like if you could answer for us.
Give me 1 second. All right, there you go. Everyone should see it.
Yeah, so maybe just submit the 1 or 2 areas that are the most irksome, if indeed they are problematic for you.
I'm just gonna wait a few more seconds, just give people a chance. All right, last call. So it looks like the top one was issues with Excel versions and upgrades, but then we don't have any problems with Web ADI, and also patching templates, the limited functionality, but there are a few people that don't have any problems with it, which is interesting.
Well, it's always good to know what our other options are out there, but the ones that have been highlighted as problematic, that does tally with us, certainly around the patching and the Excel version. So those people are in the right place today. I'll just what do I do? Stop sharing? How do I get rid of that? Just close it?
Yeah, I stopped sharing it, so you're good to go.
Brilliant. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. So right, let's just get back to what I was talking about, the alternatives. So we're going to introduce you now to the more for apps approach. In the EBS suite, that's the EBS toolbox. And this is a set of pre-configured spreadsheet loading tools aligned with eBusiness Suite. They offer the same approach as Web ADI, which is data loading directly from Excel. But we like to think that the comparison ends there because there's much more to them than that. And I'll discuss a little bit more about why I say that in a few seconds, but let's zoom in a little first. This is a breakdown here of the main tools offered in each area of the application. It's not an exhaustive list, but the most commonly used areas of support are covered there. And you can see that compared to Web ADI, the support encompasses the whole of the ERP. It's not just niche tools that aid a particular task. It's essentially a comprehensive suite that covers master data, invoicing, inventory, ordering, transactional processing. The tools are designed to work for the data users, not for IT experts. We want to try and reduce dependency on that. There's no config needed, so once they're installed, you can start loading your data straight away. That third point on the first list is a big one too. You can download data directly into the spreadsheet from Oracle, and that's a next level feature when it comes to updates or data replication. But in that first column, that last one, advanced validation, that's where the money is. No switching in and out of Oracle, no viewing error reports, anything like that. Data values are validated prior to upload, and then results and error feedback is returned to the sheet right next to the relevant data elements. Any corrections are performed directly in the spreadsheet and then just re-uploaded without any hassle. And then that second list, the second one is the big one for the Web ADI conversation. So no impact from patches. So if you patch or upgrade either to Oracle or Excel, your more for apps tools will continue to work. There's no need for any virtual machines, Citrix stuff, any of that. Doesn't matter whether you're using 11i or the latest version, 12.2.9 or whatever it is, or whatever version of Excel. And then that last point is worth underlining too. The tools use the Oracle public APIs or the Oracle public facing interface. So all the data that you upload will be supported by Oracle under the terms of your Oracle support license contract. So what do they look like? This is an example here. It's our customer wizard. And you can see that all the functionality sits within Excel. So you can still use all your Excel features. So the standard menus are still there, and you can use copy and paste and formulas and all of that stuff. But added to that is more for apps functionality. So there are some tabs for each product. The most interesting are these ones here in the middle. Sorry, where am I? This is the login button. I've just jumped ahead. You'll be prompted for a user password when you do your login, and responsibility will set the security for your Oracle session there. And then this is where I meant to say it. These are the most interesting controls here in the middle. You can validate your data without invoking any loads to ensure that your data set is clean. And that gives you a strong sense of confidence with data accuracy and integrity. The main feature is this one. You can upload the data directly from the spreadsheet. This will also invoke the validation process. Everything's going to be trustworthy when it arrives at the Oracle side. And then there's the download. This is the bit that brings so much power and versatility and takes you into the next league compared to Web ADI and Data Loader and all of those. Download your data from Oracle, inspect it, make changes, replicate it, apply your Excel formulas and so on, and then send it right back to Oracle with the upload button. You can see the feedback here that comes back to the sheet. So those green results indicate that a particular API executed successfully, and you can see there results there for the whole data hierarchy. In this example, customers, contacts, addresses, and so on. Any errors would have come back in red, and you'll have messages explaining the nature of the problem. And there's no ambiguity with how to resolve them. It's much smarter than Web ADI in that respect. No happy, sad faces, fake happy faces. You just get meaningful information. It's quite hard to show it in a static image, but each one of those results corresponds to a section of columns in the worksheet. And I would need to scroll over to the right to show you those. But the point I'm trying to make here is that all the data collection is in one sheet. No linking to other worksheets, anything fiddly like that. There's proper end user data validation. You can use these data forms, if you like, to carefully manage your data values. And there's drop downs and search buttons behind each of those controls, which aligns you with your Oracle validation rules. It's much easier to use than Web ADI because you can see them all in one place, not with those individual fiddly validation controls that have to be loaded each time you move to another cell. Now, most of the tools use APIs and directly upload the new records or the updates to Oracle without any follow-on steps. But we do have a few examples with interface loads, AP Invoice Wizard's one, and the GL Wizard we'll see in a minute. And where that method is employed, you can rest assured that the whole process can be managed from within the worksheet. There's no need to go into Oracle to perform any of your actions. So we have a button up there, the ribbon, which helps us monitor our imports. And on this form, we can view the progress and results as they come back. And more than that, we can inspect the actual detail. So there's buttons on each row. I can see the log and the output. No need to go into Oracle to see any of that stuff. So how does it compare to Web ADI? At Morphraps, we think there's no comparison. We've got over 40 templates that support areas that seeded Web ADI just doesn't touch. But I also want to show you a side-by-side comparison video now, just to help you picture how it works. The GL journals, Web ADI, I mentioned it earlier, it's probably the most heavily used. So we're going to run through that process. And at the same time, we'll show the same process in the equivalent Morphraps tool. What we're wanting to highlight here is how easy it is for people familiar with Web ADI to operate our products. In this instance, there aren't that many performance wins. The tools use the same import process, but anyone that's got concerns about the future roadmap with Web ADI should get some reassurance from watching this and understand what we have to offer and how it operates. So let's see a side-by-side comparison. On the right, we have the Web ADI template for GL journals. It's a pretty simple set of columns. On the left, the Morphraps GL wizard. And we get support for a lot more data there. At journal header level, we have attachments, lots more line info, and obviously the DFFs. With Morphraps, we can customize our layout too, move columns around without breaking anything, and remove unwanted columns to get the layout that works best. The advanced validation makes setting up the data easy. We have all-in-one-place forms with controls and drop-downs for each of the columns, which makes manual data entry easier. On the right, the entry is more awkward. We have to load up a separate selection window for each item, and it's fiddly and time-consuming. All those form opens and closes slow us down. On both sides, there are selection forms for the account flex field, but the single form on the left is much easier to use, and we can select from existing combinations. Now, fast-forwarding those Web ADI entry forms, the data is copy and pasted in, and we're ready to load. Morphraps and Web ADI use the same back-end process for GL journals with similar performance, but many Morphraps tools call APIs and run significantly faster. When Web ADI hits an error, there are nasty error flags on each line, and we have to search through all the records to find the culprit. With Morphraps, the advanced validation just highlights the problem record. The message is there. It's easy to interpret and straightforward to correct in the worksheet. Once the data is corrected, the two tools send the records up to Oracle. Because this tool runs through the interface just like Web ADI, regular Web ADI users will find it very familiar. The import job was auto-submitted, and on both sides we can monitor it from the spreadsheet. Using the refresh button, completed. But the import status is only half the story. What happened during the load? Lines can be rejected by the Oracle import job. With Web ADI, we have to go into the Oracle front end to check those results. But with Morphraps, we can view the job log and output directly from the spreadsheet. And what's more, we can refresh the spreadsheet to see exactly what happened to each record. With Web ADI, we only ever see part of the journey. With Morphraps, there are also more options available. We can delete lines from the interface when we need to, and choose to manually submit the import job, giving more flexibility with when and how we upload our interface data. Another handy advantage, Web ADI can really mess with the clipboard, and undo and redo won't always work. But no such problems with the Morphraps tool, as you can see here. So if we break down the relative strengths and weaknesses of the main Oracle entry methods, the end user forms on the front end, Web ADI, and data loader, we can see a bit of a comparison here. The blue tick boxes are what we're striving for. Now there's a lot to digest there, but the main points for this discussion today are at the bottom, where you see the red circles in the Web ADI column, most notably the one about patches and upgrades. With Web ADI, each time you do an upgrade or patch, you get headaches. And that second to last point then becomes a real headache in Web ADI. To maintain the solutions, especially the custom solutions, it's going to cost you a lot of time and money. To think of Web ADI as free can be a bit disingenuous at times. There's no upfront cost, sure, but that's not always the full picture on the costing side. Sometimes a little upfront cost can save you some headaches and cost further down the line. So we'll just come back to this slide. One thing we really haven't mentioned in much detail today is the capabilities our tools have for data maintenance. All the Morpher products have built-in download, meaning you can directly source your worksheet with data from the EBS system. And then you can manipulate it and upload your updates back to Oracle. With formulas, copy and paste, copy down, and all the shortcuts you get in Excel, rolling out mass updates to things like your organization master data is really easy. And you can see on that list there, we support customers, suppliers, projects, employees. The list goes on. So I've got a short video here which illustrates this with some supplier updates. It'll also help you see some of the things that might have been a bit fast or difficult to see on that earlier video. So we've already seen the flexibility the EBS toolbox gives you with your layout, how you can move and remove columns to get the simplest layout for a given task. We'll take that to the extreme in this example and use a sheet customized for some simple supplier and site updates. We've got a list of supplier numbers which we'll use to download existing details. We'll deactivate some sites. We could do that using the edit forms, but Excel features make it quicker to do it in the sheet. We can use formulas and copy down. And you're not limited to one type of update at a time. You could do supplier updates at the same time as the site updates. And for a simple block change, the defaults row makes it easy. These default values will be auto-populated in the worksheet if there's no value against a given record. So to trigger that, we'll clear out the existing values, and now we can upload it all together. It's that easy. That pink warning just highlights we're not changing the last group of sites. And if we download those suppliers again, we can see the new terms and pay groups, and the sites we deactivated don't show up anymore. So a pretty laborious job in the front end is achieved really easily and quickly with the Morpher tool. So we talked earlier about future-proofing in terms of patching and that limited upgrade roadmap for Web ADI. But having seen that demonstration, there is another aspect that's worth consideration here. As R12 EBS users, there will probably be a roadmap at your organization for what's next in terms of your ERP. EBS has a guaranteed but not unlimited future. So when it comes to migrations, even fresh implementations of your 2.0 system, you're going to need to gather what's in EBS and pass it across to Cloud Fusion or whatever that system is that's selected. And that data will need to be cleansed, redundancies removed, inactive data expunged, and so on. And with the front end, that's going to be a pretty hard task, but not so with the EBS toolbox. And that's the end of the presentation in terms of content today. I'm sorry we've overrun slightly. We do have a bit of time for questions now, so I'll open up the discussion to everyone, and I'll try to do my best to give you your answers.
Yeah, we have a few more minutes if you want to take it. I have a question for you. Is there a limit to the number of records you can upload at one time, or do you have to break it up in batches?
There's no limit. I mean, you're talking about the limits of Excel, so it's essentially limitless. I don't know how many million rows you can have. Yeah, there's no limitation. You might want to break it into batches to make it manageable, but there's no technical requirement. Yeah, it's not limited.
And how about, do you have any comments on attachments and adding attachments via Morpher apps versus Web ADI?
Yeah, well, I'm not that familiar with how attachments are done with Web ADI. I'm not too sure if they're supported, but within our tools, not every tool has attachments. It depends on the data area, but where attachments are heavily used by our customers, we've built them in. You can, for example, in that supplier example, you can add attachments at site and supplier header level. Customers, again, just where the heaviest business uses are. we basically have reacted to requests from our customer base for those. We do support attachments right across the suite. In general, there may be some missing, but it'll be because no customers ever required it.
Yeah. Well, we don't have any other questions, but Andrew's personal information, his email's there. If anything pops up, you feel free to reach out. I'll just reiterate that the recording and presentation will be sent out tomorrow, so please keep an eye out for that. And thank you again for taking the time to join us. Andrew, any last words?
No, just a big thank you to everyone for your attendance. I hope it was worthwhile. Like Steph said, contact me if you need. Otherwise, have a great rest of your day, everyone, and goodbye from me.
All right, thank you guys.